When I hear the name Don Knotts, I remember nervous stutters, sideways glances, and a laugh that has been passed down from generation to generation. He played Barney Fife, the deputy on The Andy Griffith Show who made people laugh by being awkward. Having won 5 Emmys, he became one of the most beloved TV stars ever. The story didn't end with cheers, though. A man who laughed was scarred by fear, illness, and being alone. His 71-year-old daughter, Karen Knott, has decided to talk about the private pain her father was going through, the truth that had been hidden behind years of smiles. What she says isn't meant to hurt his memory, it's meant to fill it in. Behind the likable deputy was a weak soul that had been through a terrible childhood, crippling anxiety, and a battle with illness that not even fame could erase. A childhood of darkness. He was born in Morgantown, West Virginia on July 21, 1924. He was the youngest of 4 brothers. The family was already having a hard time when he came along. When he was born, his mother, Elsie Lucetta, was 40 years old, and his father, William Jesse, was going through some tough personal times that made life at home hard and unpredictable. Most of the time, stability was out of reach. Don grew up in an atmosphere of uncertainty that had a big effect on him. His 3 older brothers were a lot older than him, and they didn't always get along. Instead, they often had their own lives. Don looked up to his brother Sid because he was funny and could make even the worst days better. Sid's sudden death from an asthma attack was very sad for the whole family, but especially for Don. It was his first real experience with loss, and not having the sibling he looked up to most cast a shadow that never went away. When things were hard, Don turned to his imagination for comfort. He made a fake person named Danny and used him for both fun and friendship. Don and Danny could make up fun activities that took Don's mind off of the problems in the world. His sense of humor became more open when he was at school, did some short sketches that showed some talent. Don felt like an outsider even though his classmates liked being around him and elected him class president. He would spend the rest of his life defining the difference between how other people saw him and how he felt inside. Later, his daughter Karen Knott thought that the nervous, tense actor her father played on screen wasn't just an act. It was a sign of the stress he had had since he was a child. It's true that every laugh and twitch was based on something real. He used comedy as armor and a way to connect with other people instead of being afraid. The little boy from Morgantown learned that being funny could not only make other people laugh, but it could also help him deal with the dark feelings he had inside. Getting on stage in uniform. Don's first try at show business in New York failed, and he went home in 1943, and almost the whole world was at war. He joined the U.S. Army. His job, on the other hand, wasn't on the battlefield, it was on the stage. He was in the 6,817th Special Services Battalion, which was made to give soldiers who were under a lot of stress fun and relaxation. Don learned how powerful his nervous energy could be while traveling across the Pacific with the traveling variety show Stars and Gripes. The soldiers loved him not because he was brave, but because he made them laugh by showing how scared and weak they were. He had earned many medals during his time in the Army. These included the World War II Victory Medal, the Philippine Liberation Medal, and 4 Bronze Service Stars. In addition to the awards, he had a sharp stage presence that gave him a sense of purpose that he had never really had at home. The boy who used to run away when his father got angry was now speaking in front of large groups of people and getting their attention. Don went back to West Virginia University after the war to get a degree in education with a minor in speech. He graduated in 1948. He often put on shows on campus. He won people over with both his fake Danny and his quick wit. He also met Catherine Metz, who married him first. Catherine was the daughter of a minister. Don went back to New York City in 1949 with only $100 in his pocket and Catherine by his side. He had experience, strength, and the drive to succeed this time, which was more valuable than money. It wasn't an instant hit. Still, casting directors thought he was too awkward and shaky for lead roles. Still, his determination helped him stay afloat with radio jobs and small shows. One job led to another, and so on. He got parts in radio westerns like Bobby Benson and the B-Bar B Riders, and later in the TV show Search for Tomorrow. His nervous habits found a place on screen for the first time. Don was getting closer to the big moment that would change his life. Andy Griffith. Ith big step forward. By the middle of the 1950s, Don Knotts wasn't just another New York actor who was having a hard time. Steve Allen liked his interesting style and put him in comedic roles on The Steve Allen Show in 1956. People loved it when Don played nervous, bug-eyed characters in fake interviews. He didn't have to worry about being too nervous for the first time. His name was on it. In the same year, he met up with Andy Griffith again on Broadway for Sergeants. Andy's country charm went well with Don's performance as a clumsy police officer. It was clear that they got along, and that was the start of one of the most famous partnerships in TV history. Griffith started The Andy Griffith Show in 1960. Don laughed and said that he should be cast as Andy's deputy sheriff. The thought stuck. Barney Fife was born soon after. Everything changed because of the part. Over and over again, turned awkward situations into pure comedy gold. Barney became famous all over the country for his twitchy facial expressions, stuttering speech, and never-ending energy. In just 5 years, Don won 5 Emmys and cemented his place in the history of TV. But after the movie came out, it cost a lot behind the scenes. It looked like his marriage to Catherine Metz would work out, but his career was making it impossible for them to stay together. Don's constant anxiety and the long hours on set made a gap that neither of them could bridge. Reports say Catherine never really got along with the Hollywood elite, and her relationship with Andy Griffith's wife was rocky. The couple split up after 13 years of marriage and 2 children. Later, his daughter Karen Knott said that even though people loved her dad, life at home wasn't easy. Don's constant worry, his exhaustion from performing, and his need for anxiety medicine made things hard for his family. The man who made a lot of people laugh often came home tired and quiet. For Karen, there was a big difference between her father and America's favorite deputy. The big break that made Don famous made the problems he had been having for decades worse. Stress, fame, and being alone in the middle years. Don Knotts did something in 1965 that shocked his fans. He was at the height of his fame at the time. He didn't renew his contract because he thought The Andy Griffith Show would end after 5 seasons. Instead, he signed a movie deal with Universal Pictures. He wanted to be a leading man and leave Barney Fife's shadow behind. It looked like it might be possible for a while. He became a star in movies like The Incredible Mr. Limpet and The Reluctant Astronaut, but it was hard to capture the magic of Mayberry. People liked Don, but only as the nervous sidekick. In 1969, he made the raunchy comedy The Love God, which was about a Playboy publisher. This movie showed that people didn't like him as a romantic lead. Both the movie's sales and Don's confidence took a hit. At the same time, his private fights got worse. Don had crippling anxiety for a long time and you'd often stay in bed for days before a performance. In the 1950s, doctors gave people medicine, but it quickly turned into a crutch. In later years, his daughter Karen would say that the nervous character that people laughed at was a reflection of his own fears. It wasn't just that he was nervous, he really was. The gap between the man and the mask grew as his movie career went badly. In the 1970s, Don tried to change himself by putting on the Don Knotts Show, a variety show that was meant to show off his skills. But it couldn't compete with other popular variety shows, and after only a year, it was canceled. He kept getting work as a comedian, making guest appearances in Disney movies and later getting recurring roles on Three's Company. Even though they had steady jobs, there was still a feeling that things were getting worse. No longer the Emmy-winning star, he was just a supporting actor who filled in for stars who had been brighter. Don, for his part, drifted. His first marriage was over, and even though he was often seen with women, he couldn't find a long-term partner. Karen thought about how people loved Barney Fife, but not always loved Don No. Emperor fame made people notice him, but that didn't make him feel better about being alone or the fact that he knew his best days were behind him. His health was getting worse, and he had lost his love. As the 1980s came around, Don Knotts had become a TV legend, but his personal life was falling apart again. There was a lot of trouble in his second marriage to Laura Lee Saxena, which ended in 1983. When Don was told he had macular degeneration, things really broke down, a sickness that could have taken away his sight. The news broke his heart. For a man whose job depended on timing, expressions, and performance, the thought of going blind was unbearable. In retrospect, Laura Lee said that it was his sadness over the diagnosis and how it affected him that ended their marriage. Surgery helped him see better again, but the scare left him emotionally scarred. Don had been smoking his whole life, and it had already hurt him. He had lung cancer by the late 1990s. Even though he had quit smoking more than 10 years ago, the disease came back to get its money. Even then, Don didn't tell anyone how sick he was because he didn't want to ruin the image of him that his fans had of him. He still told jokes and sidestepped questions from his kids, saying he would get better. In the middle of all this chaos, Don found love again. His first meeting with Frances Yarborough was on the sitcom What a Country in 1987. She worked behind the scenes and helped Don with lines when she was much younger. At first, their connection didn't seem likely, but as time went on, it grew stronger. They got married in 2002, which gave Don the stability he had been looking for a long time but rarely found. Frances later said she was drawn to how open he was and how he could make everyone laugh while he was going through a lot of pain behind closed doors. They were only together for a short time. By 2006, Don's cancer was too far along to be treated. Even though his health was getting worse, he refused to give up. He kept up his sense of humor and put on one last show for family and friends who came to see him in bed. Even as he was dying, he made them laugh so hard that Karen, his daughter, had to leave the room. It was the last gift he gave, the urge to make people laugh when they are about to.